Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. BoomStick and some friends, because not everyone is here just yet. People are running behind, but we will get everyone here. Folks, we have an amazing show for you. Obviously, listen, we're going to be talking acquisitions, potentially Sega. I don't know if you keep your ears to social media, but and no longer the former Twitter, now called X. Microsoft Edge has been doing some real teasing in the last couple of days on social media. I mean, they had a hedgehog running around the campus. They've actually changed their picture on X to be this hedgehog. And when we get Everborn in here, who is Mr. Sega himself, he has a theory that makes a lot of sense, that lines up with what is going on. And of course, folks, we got to get into what Tencent has been up to. Folks, there is, I think Microsoft has some serious competition. Tencent cannot be ignored. But before we get into all of that, let's welcome in the Mag. What's going on, brother?
Yes.
Look at that powerful G.I. Joe beard that you have, sir.
It's slowly growing its way in. I had so many people bother me saying, Mag, you got to grow your beard. And I'm like, listen, it gets itchy, man. I don't know how a Hargeet does it. Listen, when this thing starts growing out, I start scratching. I'm taking my wife's hairbrush and I'm scratching my chin. I don't know how you do it, Hargeet. But anyways, I'm glad to be here. I'm having a great week, having a great time, playing some games. I'm going back to play some old ones. Actually, I was just saying a couple days ago in our private chat that I've gone back and I'm playing Alan Wake Remastered, and it's actually really good because
It's excellent, dude. I didn't beat it. I got close to the end. It's very well done. Yes,
it's very well done. I'm really enjoying it. You could buy it for like $10 on the Xbox store, I think, or $11, something like that. So it's really, really cheap. Or if you're on the PlayStation, I think it's on PS Plus as well right now. So it's all there for anticipation of the new game coming. So I'm excited to get back into that, and of course, Dead Island 2 and some other things I'm getting into right now. But anyways, we got some topics to talk about. You'll hear my opinions when we get to it. But anyway, either way, guys, hit the like button, tell your friends. Let's get into the show, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hargeet, what's going on? Love the background. Love the smile as usual. We're talking Sega, not because we think Sega's next, because I think they're next, but Microsoft is out there stoking the fires, man. I mean,
they are.
What is the deal with the hedgehog running around the Microsoft campus? I don't understand it.
I mean, what else could it be? It just seems like
I don't want to steal
right?
his thunder, but Hargeet, Everborn has a pretty epic thought and theory to this, and it makes sense because it actually happened.
Yep.
And of course, we're going to get into the Tencent talk because obviously, you've talked about them on numerous shows. A lot of people are not paying attention, and what's scary, I think more than anything, is the regulators who broke Microsoft's balls for the last 21 months have paid little to no of what they're doing. Nothing. They're just buying, 20% here, 30% here. But there's a list of companies that they own 100% of, and it is a staggering list. Like, they are really someone that, again, no one is paying attention to what they are doing. It's quite concerning.
Yeah, it's an interesting issue of when the regulators should get involved. They've been in hot water with the U.S. From the FTC standpoint, but now that their eyes are open, I'm wondering if things start to change. Right? Usually, they kind of just let this industry go. They didn't care. Right? Now that their eyes are open with this ABK purchase, like, this is big. It's a big industry, and there are some big players, and you do kind of need to actually pay attention on, as to who's doing what. Sony came in and kind of disrupted the whole industry back in the 90s. Did what I would consider very anti-competitive things, and nobody cared. It's like it just happened. Everybody died. Yeah, too bad. That's the way it is. And they certainly were acquiring a lot. They were also going and getting deals with everybody to get games away from their competitors, right? So now you know about all this, right? So all the regulators, they know about all this. The question is, will this go into any of these acquisitions? Techland, I'm sure, is more than the actual regulation, the threshold for regulatory compliance checks. And will they go in and say, gee, I don't know, you're the biggest revenue generator in gaming. Are you really not becoming too large? A lot of people might say, hey, look, they're not a platform. Well, it doesn't necessarily matter if for some reason Tencent or the Chinese government says, hey, we will only put games on Android, right?
Yeah.
Does that take away a lot of leverage against iOS? Would that make a lot of people say, hey, wait a minute, I'm not going to get any of those games? Right. So that kind of becomes a thing, right? And we only think about console, but remember the biggest gaming area is now mobile. And Tencent, China does not have a lot of happiness with Apple. So
Right.
though they make their products, right, there's just things that they've been having issues with, and they make their own versions of Android. It's open source, so they make their own version. That's what they could say, hey, we're only going to put things here. I doubt Tencent would want to do that, but they're kind of controlled by a government, and as we saw, governments, well, they get political, and they can do whatever they want, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
They could have it out for, say, PlayStation. They could say, you know what, Sony is a Japanese company, and we don't want to deal with them. Well, how would you feel, Sony fans? Would you be okay with them saying, we'll only be putting this stuff on Xbox, right? That could happen, and you have to think about these things. At some point, when you have so much, even if you aren't a platform, you own a lot of content. You kind of drive the market at some point. And so you have to kind of think about what that means. They could set prices. They could say, hey, we own 30% of the content, and we're going to say it's $100 from now, not $70 from now.
Yes.
Well, what are you going to do? Right. How are you going to respond to that? You're going to see the rest of them say, well, if they're doing it, we're going to go set $100 too. That's what's going to happen. Right. So this is the kind of stuff that they have to now look at. Right. It's a good thing to be concerned when Microsoft buys ABK. It's equally concerning when one of these big titans goes and gets somebody. Sony's got this big thing in front of them as well. They're going to try to maybe acquire somebody. If they do, will their market share that they then they themselves put out there that they do not compete with Nintendo, they have then made themselves a target to say, well, if your market share is this big, can we really allow you to buy stuff? This is going to be an interesting discussion going forward, right? So we see Microsoft, they're going to continue on. I still think they have I get, from my perspective, Japan is such a ridiculously low market share for them that I think they have enough to be able to say, yes, we should be able to buy something here. But even then, the regulators may say, no, you're getting too much, right? So we'll see. But this is the kind of thing we have to look at now. What will all the regulators around the world, especially the big ones, say about Tencent continuing to acquire? Is that okay? Is somebody like Sony going to be allowed to continue to expand their market share? I don't know. Right? These are all interesting questions.
Well, it makes. I mean, they're fantastic questions, because really, what it begs to understand is if they gave Microsoft, who's in third place, and in some cases fourth, right? When you look at, if you look at what Apple Arcade is doing in regards to how many people they have subscribed. Again, we're not being funny here, folks. When depending on which list you put Microsoft on, they're either third or fourth. So if Microsoft, who's in third and fourth, had regulators basically two of the three big ones converging to block a deal, which ultimately is going to go through because there was nothing wrong with it, you got to ask yourself, what is going to happen with someone like a Tencent who has their tentacles everywhere? I mean, this is almost a Hydra-like, if you will, where they are literally everywhere. And someone like Sony, listen, you want Sony to continue to compete, right? They're gonna make their first party bangers. But what if they decide they want to buy somebody? Do we allow them to go unscathed? Because obviously, if there's anything that sets off a red flag for me, it's how quickly Bungie went through. Bungie went through as quick as I lace up my boots, ladies and gentlemen, and that's crazy.
Yep.
That was almost $4 billion, and no problem. It's Sony. Let it go through. It is what it is. Yep. I mean, I understand, Hargeet, that it's not the same as, let's say, a $70 billion. It's a $4 billion deal, and it went through like nothing.
Yep, and it's technically a publisher, right? Bungie publishes their own games. So,
they certainly do. Yeah.
So if you're gonna say, hey, they're not buying publishers, that's not true. They're buying publishers, and if that's okay, then you have to ask, what is it about the market that is going to determine whether somebody's too big in that market.
Yeah.
And that is a big question mark now for the regulators. They're gonna have to figure that out, right? This is something that had to be done at some point. Somebody had to bring in a big thing that suddenly this market is now elucidated to all the regulators around the world, like 40 countries, whatever it was, that have been approving this deal. They all now know, right? Okay, this is what Sony does. This is what Nintendo does. This is what Xbox does. This is what Tencent does, because they have to get all that information, right? And so that this has all been made clear to them. It is going to be fun to see what happens in the next few years, right? We're hoping that Microsoft can continue, and I hope they do get to at least get something in Japan. But if if this is like the end for all these big guys, that'll be an interesting time, right? And you can't really say you can't acquire. So if EA wants to be acquired, for instance, they're allowed to say that. They're allowed to be acquired, right? Who would buy them? That's a huge
That's
company.
a freaking good question.
Right?
I don't know. I mean, that to me seems like, and I remember the rumor is Amazon would have
Possibly.
was interested in them. That was the rumor. Listen, we're gonna cover it, because I'm gonna say this. I have a short list of studios that I think are A, complete no-brainers, and B, if Microsoft does not, because again, I don't know what the contracts say. The contracts that they have in place for, let's say, Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, IO Interactive, they might have, and we're gonna get to welcome in Keosante, because he actually said this morning to me. They may actually have first rights for to acquire. That may be something that's baked into the contract. Something that has hurt them in the past by not doing that, i.e., Crackdown 3's engine that basically was stripped from the freaking game, which is crazy. Keosante, what's going on, dude? How you feeling?
Good evening, folks. I apologize that I'm a little late.
That's right.
These days, life can't be helped, but I am here and I'm enjoying the conversation so far. I see that background, Hargeet. This is a great way. That way you don't have to say his name. He ain't showing up. You just put the picture up. This is great. This is amazing. No, I'm here for it. Let's go. This is great.
Yeah, well, you know what? Everborn is just doing something with the family. He'll be here any second. Obviously, we're having a Sega topic, so I've already said Sega 3 or 4 times. He's going to show up like.
Oh yeah.
Man.
Looking forward to his
right through the bathroom mirror.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So as we wait for Everborn to get here, folks, we got to talk Sega, because I know. Look. I want them to acquire Sega because I'm a Sega stan. Like, and you heard me say this before, folks, the greatest console of all time, I'll fight you for it, is the Dreamcast. There's no doubt about it. It is the greatest compilation of games in any one console on any one generation. One of my favorites. And unfortunately, it died too early. But Microsoft Edge on social media started a ruckus, if you will, yesterday, Hargeet. And they had a hedgehog running around the campus, and it was on keyboards, and it was on soda cans, and it was running in the hallways. And look, why a hedgehog? I don't know. I can tell you this.
Maybe there was one running right behind me here.
Well, I mean, if we're going to go there immediately, then we might as well go there, because here's the thing, folks. We know that Sega was going to be acquired by Microsoft. Phil did the pitch. The contract was ready to rock and roll. And we know that they have a great relationship. The head of Sega was recently interviewed. And when they asked him about acquisitions or being acquired, he simply said, well, not right now. And Hargeet, I got to be honest with you. We talk about Japan. We know that Microsoft does not have a presence. I think they have like 2% of the market in Japan. It is egregious. Yep. Now, whose fault is that? Probably Microsoft's, because they don't appeal to that type of gamer there. But I got to tell you, They're in mobile now. The ABK deal is getting done in the next week or two. We'll be celebrating it once it's finally signed across the entire globe. And if there is one company that could really give them almost instantaneous thumbprint, it is Sega. There's no doubt about it. They are one of the legacy. I mean, they're up there with the Capcoms. They're up there with the Konamis. Now, regardless of what Konami is of a shell of its former self, they're up there with the Squares. Sega means something in Japan, and it still does. And Sonic the Hedgehog right now, Hargeet, is probably more popular than he was in the 90s. Let's call a spade here. Anywhere you go, there are toys. There are
the movies helped.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
What do you think that these teases mean? Because I know that everyone who just showed up, he has a theory that makes a lot of sense about what happened the last time there was these social media darling things with Sega and Xbox. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Hargeet?
I mean, it could be just a partnership. That's always a thing. But I mean, we saw it, right? We saw that part of the court case. It went all the way to the board. Hey, we're looking to get Sega, right? So you got to think this is stuff that's been in the works. An acquisition like this takes time, right?
Yep.
The ABK thing was really fast tracked, and that's still, it took it 18 months to finalize whatever, but it was really fast tracked. It was like November through January that they got all that done, but that was Herculean effort. Usually these things take like a year to bake to get to the point where you say, okay, we're cool, let's do this, right? I'm sure they've been talking this whole time.
Yep.
Certainly Sega sort of have restructured themselves to take the Sammy part and put that aside to the Sega part, right? And then they also bought Rovio. I believe that was them, right? They bought Rovio. So yet another
just got cleared
mobile
today, I believe.
Yep. So another mobile, big publisher that could help Xbox, right? So look, it seems like that is kind of the direction. They were going to get one of these publishers. That was going to happen, right? They're going to get one of these Japanese publishers because of their market share, right? The only potential way to do this without, so Sony comes in with their might and keeps blocking stuff, right? And they've done this a lot of cases with every one of the publishers there. And, Microsoft just can't keep opening the wallet to just get games that they should have already gotten, right? So they're like, this is the way to guarantee it. Even if they're not exclusive, at least they're coming, right? And they'll come to Game Pass. It'll be a big deal for them, right? They could even look at saying, hey, let's bring back some of our stuff like Blue Dragon, Lost Odyssey, stuff like that. Hey, let's make that happen. Sega also gives you is it Relic, I think, is the company that does the
RTS stuff. Yes, dude,
stuff.
That's a big one,
now,
dude.
Granted, they have ABK, right? But
right.
I would say that getting somebody who's already worked on Age of Empires for you, it's good to have that studio in house, right? So, but this is the thing. So I think they're hinting this is kind of in the works. It could be something smaller. It could just be, hey, we're gonna have more day and date games coming from Sega or something like that. That's always possible, right? But it does seem like this is something that it just kind of it's happening, and it should be happening soon enough. I don't know if they're gonna wait till next year to really go down that path, but they have to wrap up ABK, right? That has to get done first.
It's funny, Hargeet, because I in my gut, I kind of feel like this announcement is coming in January of 2024 to open up that year. It's just a gut feeling. I don't have any insider information, folks. It's just a gut feeling to open up the 2024 campaign after potentially having one of their best holidays. And again, what I'm suggesting is bonkers, but it could come true. You talk about a holiday season for Xbox in 2023 that consists of Starfield, Motorsport, and potentially Call of Duty and Game Pass in November. My God, I mean, I don't know what else to say, and that's on the heels of knowing that next year we have Hellblade 2 and Avowed, at least bookends with other stuff. I just, folks, I'm here to tell you that if you are not down with Xbox at some point in your gaming career, you're probably going to have to get down with us. That's the bottom line. Otherwise, you're going to be left at the dock as a ship, float out to sea, because it's going to get so big for Xbox. It's literally going to be hard to ignore, honestly. But before we bring in Asante and Everborn Saga, we got to go to the Mag. Mag, look, you're an OG.
Yes.
Obviously, if you look behind you, you're an arcade guy. You're like me. We grew up in the arcades. We grew up with Sega. Microsoft has been doing a lot of teases, and they haven't. What you get when you get a tweet, you get a tweet. You're like, nah, it's just somebody on the team, jiving, right? This has not stopped. They have not taken their foot off the pedal with this Sega, this hedgehog thing. And it's, I mean, I'm sorry to say, hedgehogs are cute, but they're not that cute when you're talking about video games because you think Sonic. I mean,
yeah,
they know what they're doing.
Yeah, see, it seems way too random, doesn't it?
It's just
like it's impossible that you would just pick of all animals to pick. Like they could have picked a lemur. Lemurs are cute. You know what I mean?
But they could have picked an idle sloth. You don't know.
Yeah, something. Listen, there's something going on. But here's my thoughts. And this may be against the grain of what some people are thinking. Maybe it's against what everyone's thinking. I don't know. Or the chat. Try not to crucify me. But this is my thought. I don't think they're going to acquire them at all. I think what they're going to do is a deep partnership.
Well, listen. You are on this. I don't want to spill the tea.
Yeah,
but Everborn Saga has a theory.
You'd be surprised at what I'm gonna say, Mag.
Okay,
Mag, you might be on to something.
I'm gonna guess Sonic is coming to Game Pass.
Well, here's the thing. It can't just be Sonic. I think it's going to be a deep partnership like EA. That's my call. I think it's going to be like EA Play. They're going to have a separate section called like the Sega the Sega catalog. They'll have anywhere from the 80s to the 90s to the aughts, and then all the way up until Sonic Frontiers or whatever. I think they're going to add that all in there. I don't think they're going to raise the price. They already raised the price, right? So I think it's going to stay the same. I think that they're going to have a very deep partnership. Now, allow me to explain my reasons as to why I believe that this is the case as opposed to acquisition. Some of them are fairly obvious. The one is it's a hell of a lot easier to pay for content than it is to acquire content, right? So they can. The other thing is that you have no regulators, no court proceedings, nobody breathing down your neck. You don't have the FTC staring at you. You don't have the CMA staring at you because you're not actually purchasing anything. You're just renting content. It's no different than what's happening right now with the other with the streaming services that are going on in Hollywood, where you've got now. I don't know if you guys knew about this, but like Warner Brothers is starting, and HBO and stuff are starting to sell off. They're renting their IP to Netflix again. So now a lot of that stuff that they pulled back and were putting, exclusively on Paramount Plus and HBO Max, whatever. All of a sudden, they started cropping up back on Netflix. You know why? Because it's mutually beneficial for both, and it keeps regulators off their backs. So that's another reason why. This is a loophole around. We're going to get into that subject when we get into the whole Tencent thing and as to why Tencent has been doing what they're doing, right? Because you're under the radar. You are literally flying under the radar and no one's bothering you. So you got the no regulators, no court proceedings. It's a hell of a lot easier to rent than it is to acquire. The other thing is, this works for multiple reasons as well. And another front, while we're waiting for ABK to close, which is going to be a while, it's still going to be a couple of months. It could be a couple of months, could be August, could be whenever. We don't know 100% for sure when. And then from there, we don't know how long it's going to take for them to make the move, get the content onto the catalog, onto the Game Pass catalog. It could be months. It could be 2024. It could be next year. We don't know. Until it happens, then we could say, okay. But in the meantime, you can get Sega. You can get Sega content tomorrow if you wanted to, because it's literally nothing except for having access to their catalog, to the IP. That's all they would require. It's not like they have to sit there and they have to, create an entirely new work atmosphere. They have to, jive with the way Microsoft likes to do their business and everything else. They don't have to do anything. They literally just have to purchase and pay for the IP, and that's the perfect way to do it. And also, that's a hands-free approach that it actually is a low risk for them, because you're going to attract people into the service like us, the older gamers and everything else. And then, of course, you're going to attract the new gamers in there. And what else are you doing? You're putting fresh content into Game Pass now. So now you can actually stretch Sega's content into like a year. You could slowly release 4 or 5 IP a month for 12 straight months, and everybody be looking forward to I wonder what the next 5 IP are going to be. I wonder what the next 5 or 10 games are going to be in October and November. You remember how excited we used to get for games with gold, like when it was actually good? We used to get excited and wait for it every month to get the announcement. This could be that kind of thing where they could keep that hype train rolling, keep people involved in Game Pass while they're waiting for ABK to close, because ABK is a big deal and it's a slow-moving ship, and it's going to take a hell of a long time for that to all get settled. Once that dust settles, then sure, then fine. Then they've got monster IPs that they can throw on Game Pass and whatever else, and they'll be fine for decades, literally. But until that time, why not rent this IP? This is the way I look at it. And then, like I said, and if it doesn't work out, you could just cancel the partnership and just say, you know what? Okay, we tried it again for 6 months. It did okay. We were hoping for more subs. You know, they always have a projection, right? Yeah. When they got Bethesda, they had an internal projection of how many Game Pass subscribers they were going to get as as a result of the Bethesda acquisition, right? And of course, to keep people involved in that. That's how these things work. It's got nothing to do with, like, for example, when you have a show, that's why a lot of these Netflix shows, even when they're popular, you hear the stories and people are like, why the hell did they cancel it after season 3 or season 4? They could have gone to 8 seasons. It's because the subscribers, like the new subscribers, have slowed down. When it slows down, they don't have any reason to spend more money on it. That's the way that they operate. And that's just the way it is for these streaming services. Whole different thing. However, the streaming services is no different than Game Pass, right? So it's the same thing there. If they find after, let's say, 6 months that nothing significant came of subscriber growth in Game Pass, they could say, Sega, that was wonderful. We had a great time. Thank you very much for your service. Here's your money, and then send them on their way. It's a hands-free approach to be able to drum up business. If it works, it works. And one last thing I'll pass off before we pass off to the Sega experts is I was going to say is that if it does work out, then you have the option for a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years down the road. As you've been slowly courting them, you've been dating, you gone on a few dates, you went out for dinner, you had a good time, you went for a few walks. You know what I mean? You're slowly courting them. Then maybe you can have that partnership later on where you could say, you know what? I think we'd be great together. And that's when you get down on one knee with the engagement ring, right? When that happens, that's a whole different thing. But until that time, I say, do what I do. Deep partnership, rent the IP, see how it goes, give it 6 months, and then make a decision from there. And in the future, when everything in the dust is settled on all the acquisitions, like Michael Corleone said, you're already moving on to the next man, and the ink on your divorce papers haven't dried from the last man. So let's just settle that business first. Get people hyped up for Sega. I think it's a great idea, and just have the IP in Game Pass, and then call it a day.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. But you know what?
Go ahead.
Let's bring in Everborn Saga. Now, Everborn, you have to attack this whole Sega thing from 2 angles. One is something that we talked about today, because the last time we saw this back and forth between Sega and Microsoft, that they were doing there were some employees from Sega that were doing the X sign, right? You remember that? They had I think it was like a green iced tea or whatever it was, and they said it was refreshing. It just so happens, folks, that at the time of that, quote unquote teasing, as it was brought to my attention by Everborn, Microsoft was going to acquire Sega. Like, that was in the cards. And of course, I want you to follow that up with your ideology of, they don't have to acquire them. There's another way that they can get involved with Sega that gives them control over the IP, but doesn't have regulators up in the business. Take it away, man.
Okay, so just first, before we get into that, just to address some of the things that my brother Mag said. So what you're talking about right now, sort of, one, it already exists with Nintendo, right? Part of your Nintendo yearly subscription, it has a
your mic is coming in and out.
All right, hold on, give me a second here.
Yeah.
All right, how do I sound now?
Now you're good. Yeah.
Okay. So part of your Nintendo subscription has a Sega section for retro games, right? That's one part of it, right? But everything Mag described is actually happening right now. That's what they've been doing, right? So when we talk about the partnership for Super Game, when we talk about all the Persona and Yakuza games going into Game Pass day and date, when we talk about the courting that you talked about, buy them a drink first before you ask them back to your apartment, right?
Right.
All those things are actually happening right now. The fact that Microsoft helped fund Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, right?
I forgot about that. That's right. That was
Right.
what, last year or the year before?
Yeah. That was like 2020, 2021.
Yeah, 2021, I think. Yeah, you're right.
But if
that was a good game. I enjoyed that.
it is. It actually is kind of similar to Genshin, but without all the pay to win stuff. But the point is, and they even added like a cell shading update, which was hilarious. But my point is, all those things you're talking about of seeing what the relationship is like, having them use the Microsoft technology, working together, that's happening now as a part of the deal that came about randomly or not randomly. I don't believe in coincidences. But in November of 2021, when ABK came into the picture, we know that magically they announced this partnership on Super Game, as though it was a way for them to, hey, we were talking about acquisitions, but we are very close. Let's do something here and see where it goes, right? And so when I hear how much the Sega CFO talks about how appreciative they are, they literally said, we're honored that Microsoft was considering us, right? And they talked about how Microsoft values them more than the other publishers or the other platform holders value them. So I'm just saying all this to say that your courting period is happening like in front of us with the Persona games and the Yakuza games and the older Sonic games. So all that could happen. The only thing that they haven't done yet that you talked about is the retro section in Game Pass, which I'm
talking about a deeper partnership. You're absolutely right. Like everything you said, you're 100% right so far with the games that have already shown up in Game Pass. Like a Dragon I believe that was in the Game Pass as well, right?
Yep.
They all showed up in there. I'm talking about a deeper partnership where they put an entire catalog a la EA Play. And it's not just retro. It'll be retro, new, whatever. And then from inside that whatever we'll call it Sega Play just for giggles, okay? So Sega Play, and then have a retro section. Have an 80s section, a 90s section, have an aughts section, and then of course have the new section. You have the online component, and then you have the Yakuza series and everything else. You can have all of those in there. Very similar to EA Play does. They still have things divided into subcategories on top of a category, right?
So that's something I think would take a little bit more, because Sega currently at least does not have a subscription service where that's easily tied in. They would have to design something. Like I said, they do have something like that for the Switch, but again, those are mostly the retro titles.
The retro games, yeah.
So they'd have to design something where they want like the best games after a certain amount of time to come.
But why even let them do it? Let the experts who already have the service do it. They've already been working with the Game Pass model for 6.5 years now. Leave it to Microsoft, and Microsoft can say, listen, our engineers will take care of it. We'll send you a proposal, and then we'll sit down and do a PowerPoint and see if you guys like what we present, like the idea. And then all they have to do is just sign off on renting the IP. It's so simple that they could do it tomorrow. That's what I'm saying.
Totally. I'm just saying, like, most of the games apart from Sonic are going in there. Like all the new Atlas games are going in there apart from Sonic Frontiers. And who knows, maybe that's what this teasing is about. Maybe it's about Sonic Superstars coming to Game Pass. Who knows, right? But for the most part, all their large titles from Yakuza and Persona are going into Game Pass. Now, is it comprehensive and back catalog? No, because some things roll in and out of the service. And I know what you're talking about is a little bit different, but they are putting most of their titles on there, and they absolutely could do that. All right. So I just wanted to say that about what you said, because I think more of it is happening than a lot of us realize. Not you, Mag, but like this is just for the broader audience. They are doing surprisingly a lot of what you said already. It's just not formalized in the way that sort of you described it. You know what I mean? All right. So there's that. Now, there is something they can do that would not be considered buying them and taking them off the board. Now, you are familiar, and I know we're going to potentially talk about Tencent and Tencent's strategy, right? That seems to be working.
Yeah, we definitely get into that.
Where they're taking positions in companies, right? We saw recently that they took a controlling share in the company that makes Dead Island, or sorry, Dead Island, right? Or is it
Dying
Techland?
Light 2,
Dying
Dying
Light
Light,
2.
and but they did do Dead Island 1 though.
Right. So they've done that, and we know that when everybody talks about AI and Chat GPT, right? We all know that, right? We know that Microsoft is heavily invested in that, but do we also know that Microsoft actually doesn't own OpenAI, the makers of Chat GPT, but they do have a controlling stake. They own 49% of the company, right? Which is on the books, not a controlling share. That's what they'll tell all the regulators, but it's 49%, and they have the exclusive commercial rights to it, right? And so, or at least first dibs to it. So I say that to say, the way Sega Sammy is structured, and the way that they would have to deal with regulators there, you don't want to take a major company off the Nikkei in Japan. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, let me know. That's like the Japanese sort of Dow Jones or whatever. But Sega Sammy can still stay on the books as Sega Sammy, and they're just taking a 49% stake, or whatever Sega Sammy values the gaming division as. And just like ChatGPT, or just like the Tencent investments, they can say, for this stake that we're taking in the company, we are now in control of the gaming division. This is literally what they did with ChatGPT. So it is entirely possible, and and yes, regulators would have to review it, but there's nothing they really could do as long as they keep it below 51%. Right? You take 49 and you say, for your 49 you get gaming, and that's because we know that Microsoft doesn't really want the hotel business, right? But you can keep the same management structure in place, right? And you can just say, we own this amount, and now when we invest in this company, we're now investing in Sega Sammy for them to contribute to the gaming division, right? So we're going to give them the money they need. They're going to be our publishing arm in Japan, right? And they can not only get us all the Sega and retro titles, they can get us into these conversations with other Japanese studios that maybe Xbox doesn't even come across their bow when they're talking about who's going to publish their game. Because Sega can get you into sometimes being in the room, and I know you know this, Mag, sometimes being in the room is just half the battle. Yes. And if you're not in the room, you don't get the opportunity. So Sega, being such a staple in Japan, could get Xbox in those rooms so that they don't miss those titles, and they could be the mouthpiece for Xbox, so that when a title is coming out, it can go there, even if it's not specifically from Sega. That's the first part. The next part is, when we talk about nostalgia and Xbox, it takes us back to our college years and the fun that we had there. You know what it doesn't do? Doesn't really take us back to our childhoods, right? At least not for most of us. And that's where Nintendo really shines. People use Nintendo IP to indoctrinate their children into video games, right? When you play a new Mario or a new Zelda, it takes you back to feeling like you were a kid again. And even with Activision and ZeniMax, it doesn't really do that, right? So the question is, and I know we aren't going to be the center of the world forever, but for right now, Sega has those nostalgia IPs that could give them that and allow them to compete not only on Sony's level, but on Nintendo's level of sort of emotional nostalgia purposes that make you not think about your imminent demise, right? For as long as you play. So they could give them the nostalgia play. We know, as we just talked about ad nauseum, that they're already working very closely together on technology with the Super Game Project, right? They're already ingrained into Game Pass, although not fully. And we know that Relic or Creative Assembly, something like that, helps Microsoft with the Age of Empires games. So they are partnering already by helping Xbox studios develop games. They bring nostalgia at a level that Activision, ZeniMax, and Master Chief can't. They're already sort of integrated into the business model, and they're on board. They have the best working relationship out of any Japanese publisher, and that is before we get to Rovio. Now that is important because we know the future is or where Xbox wants to grow is mobile. And the fact that they've restructured the company, the fact that they have, again, one of the most successful transmedia IPs. And when we say that, we're talking about toys, we're talking about TV shows, we're talking about movies, and we're talking about games that sell millions of copies.
Let me add something to that, Everborn, right? We generally just overlook this. There's 3 big companies in Japan that still have massive arcade games, that are across the country. Sega is one of them. And adding that in to just be able to say, hey, when that Sega thing comes up and says Xbox plus Sega, right? That is exposure. It's big exposure. And arcades have not really gone down. They're still pretty big over there. Just adding that in for your
right. And so this is the other thing. It's not just when they say they want to grow in the region, they're not just talking about Japan. They're talking about Japan, South Korea, China, right? And that's a huge opportunity that, again, ABK, maybe apart from StarCraft, doesn't really give them, right? And so this is a huge opportunity that could be had, because remember, Sega Sammy might be 4 billion, but Sega video games only makes half of the revenue of Sega Sammy, right? So if you're just looking at that portion of it, remember, back in 2021, Microsoft valued them at 2 billion. That was including the markup that they were going to give, right? So for relatively cheap, you could get nostalgia, you could get an in-house PC dev, and you get a mobile publisher. Imagine saying they're going to have Candy Crush and Angry Birds, right? These were the 2 sort of premier mobile publishers, and Rovio with Angry Birds was the first mobile game to do $1 billion in revenue in a year, right? So when you add Rovio's talents to Sega's IP, when you add King's monetization to Rovio's talent with IP, and remember, Angry Birds is also a transmedia property. Remember, they did 2 Angry Birds movies, plus there's TV shows. So again, you get transmedia, you get mobile, you get a PC dev, you get something that, again, this is one of those things where you can't quantify the worth in terms of raw numbers, but the what it would do for the community and the fans, and just the news talking points of saying Sega is back in the first party business is huge for the brand in terms of excitement, right? So I think all around, if we and let's just get back to the fact of what they can actually do with the IP. I'm gonna just rattle some things off for the chat and for Mag and everybody. What if we know Sonic, right? And we know Streets of Rage, right? But think about this. When you have something like a Sega and their legacy IPs, you can take that IP and you can remake it, but have it be a nostalgia 2D kind of thing. Think Streets of Rage 4 or Shredder's Revenge. Those are very cheap to make, and they sell millions of copies just off the nostalgia. And that in and of itself can be your inexpensive route for high impact releases that will get everyone on your side and also bring these IPs back. So instead of saying we're going to do AAA remakes right away, you do the Sonic Superstars, Shredder's Revenge, Streets of Rage 4 treatment first for things like Gunstar Heroes and
how
Ultra
about
Beast
Altered
and
Beast,
Golden Axe.
Like,
right?
imagine if they went and they made a futuristic, a modern day 2D side scroller, and they revisited Altered Beast. That would sell millions.
I
Yeah,
think you
but
had a
that-
different idea, right?
But-
Well, no. Wait a
Or an
minute.
expansion for Forza Horizon with Daytona.
Exactly. And that's where
Like,
don't Sega Rally, remember?
It's endless. The possibilities are endless. However,
I love
you
this
Virtua
idea.
On could be your
know?
answer to Armored Core. Mag, what were you gonna say? Because
I was going to say one thing. I wanted to jump on something we were talking about the multimedia, like for example, the movie division and everything else like that. Wouldn't that just add more headaches for regulators if they're trying to acquire? Because now you're moving out of the video game business and now you're moving into the entertainment business.
Well,
so,
they don't make those though because
Yeah,
they're
make
just
it, yeah.
licensing
They're just
those.
licensing,
If they were the movie studio, then I would say
so then
yeah.
they would lose all the licensing for that. Then
They wouldn't lose the licensing.
No,
It's
not
just
losing, but
something
they yeah.
you
Sorry, go
would
ahead.
You'd continue to license it, right?
Okay.
Microsoft is already working with Paramount, that's who Sega has to deal with. This is another sort of Venn diagram thing. We know Microsoft licenses Halo to Paramount to do that show.
Right. Yeah.
Not a great show, but that's also who Sega works with for all their Sonic stuff. That's the movies, that's the TV shows. Even if you look at the stuff on Netflix, it is made by Paramount or produced by Paramount. So that's one thing. Now, so what I'm saying is, as a start off, we do what Mag said. We throw the Sega section on top of the retro section in Game Pass, but then we start on our remake assault. And these, again, to gauge the interest in these IPs, you're going to do smaller, sort of hand-drawn 2D style games, again, like Streets of Rage 4, like Battletoads, which would have been great if it had online multiplayer. But anyway, like Streets of Rage 4, like Shredder's Revenge, like the Double Dragon game that's about to come out, like Sonic Superstars and Mario Wonder, 2D games for these old IPs, these legacy IPs, because it is low risk, high reward for those. And then the ones that pop off, that's when you turn around and say, okay, we have this idea for a AAA game. It was its own thing in the beginning, but now we have an IP that we can throw on top of it. So we have this idea for like an Elden Ring style game. Let's throw the Altered Beast IP on that. Oh,
Yeah,
we have an over-the-shoulder sad dad simulator like God of War. Let's throw the Golden Axe IP on that. And you bring it back that way,
dude.
right?
Yeah.
I'm not done yet. Okay, cool. We got something that's like Ghost of Tsushima, Shinobi. Right, we can keep doing this, right?
So this is a slow burn for you, is what I'm saying. So
yeah, I'm talking.
This is not like a tomorrow they're going to announce it and then cause a new set of headaches. This is going to be a slow burn.
I don't think you do an acquisition like what I'm talking about. You wait Lena Khan out because she has like 2 more years in her term, and the FTC is they like balance, right? So yes, Lena Khan is a maverick, but she's not going to be there for another year. Like after a year or 2, she may drop down to a commissioner, or she may go on to do something else. But the next commissioner that comes in, I promise you, is not going to be a hawk like this, because they know that there was a lot of disruption, and that's taking as much politics out of it as I can.
Yeah,
we know that these things ebb and flow, right? So you wait until the next person is in, who is going to try to restore the name of the FTC in the community, right? In the investment and M&A community. And not that that's their job to do. Their job is to protect us. I am just saying these things, they go in cycles, right? I don't think anyone can argue with that. So when the next person comes in, as long as they're not as hawkish, that's when you go and you make the move, but you keep them close as a partner now. So again, you're buying them all the nice drinks, you're taking them out on vacations, you're giving gifts, you're driving the mother to the hospital and work. You know what I'm saying? You're playing your position until it's time to strike with the anaconda, if you catch my drift. Now, the thing is this. The thing is this. So I do think that there's so much potential there, and it would be the least expensive, and it is the one Japanese publisher that they have this amazing working relationship with, that they can hit the ground running on day one. The other ones are going to take a lot of integration. I don't know, like I want them to buy Square just out of spite And I want them to open a separate bank account and take all the money that they're making from PlayStation, from ESO and Fallout 76 and COD and all that. And when that reaches enough to buy Square, you literally use PlayStation's money to buy Square. That's because I'm petty. But realistically, Sega really feels like the best bet because you know that they have this 20-year relationship. You know that they believe in the vision. You know that they don't have a problem using your tech, right? And that's why you want to do this. Listen, you could bring back Crazy Taxi as like a live service game where everybody's running around, you know what I mean? Almost like a Fall Guys kind of thing. We got to pick up your mark and then drop them to where you want to go. Right? There's so much. Virtua Fighter 6 or 7, I don't remember what they're up to. Right?
I think they're up to 6. Yeah.
Right? These are all the things that you could just do easy, table stakes. Listen, and if so, you do your 2D Gunstar Heroes, but then when you want to bring it back to AAA, you say, "Hey, we got a Ratchet and Clank style title. Let's use Gunstar Heroes IP for that." Right?
Yeah.
These are the kind of things that they could do, and it's right there. And if we can imagine what if we look at, and I implore everybody, it's in Game Pass, go play Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis with the new updates. Turn on the cell shading. It's great. But if you take that to the next generation, if you do, again, you want a Final Fantasy game there, Phantasy Star, right? These are things that they could do, and they could do them in the old school way for upfront, gauge interest, and then turn them into AAA IPs. And again, it's not like you're just saying, "Oh, there's no market for that anymore." There doesn't need to be a market because you're just making a new AAA game, but you're attaching this IP to it because it'll give you the nostalgia marketing up front, and then the game will speak for itself after that as though it's a new IP. So it's not about saying, "Oh, 18-year-olds today are going to remember Golden Axe." They don't have to. That's for us to remember it, but the game will stand on its own. God of War 2018 could have been another IP entirely in terms of the gameplay style, but they just threw the God of War IP into it and used that lore. There's nothing saying that they can't do that with some of these old IPs and again, they would instantly get the marketing of being this nostalgia remake, but really it's a new game for all intents and purposes. You want your superhero games? Patman Jones says it in the chat. We don't got Spider-Man, but we got Comic Zone, and we can turn that.
Comic Zone was dope, dude. Like that was really
you know
good.
What I mean? And
well, I mean, what about this? What about Panzer Dragoon? Remember the RPG?
Yes.
I mean,
yes. So listen,
dude, like
treasure trove. And by the way, Sega's already talking about this, but they don't have like the resources to really do this AAA thing that I'm talking about. But if you read their financial filings, they are saying they're sitting on a treasure trove, and what the rebirth of Sonic is only the beginning for them, is what they're saying. They want to start looking at. And did you know that from the makers of John Wick, that's who's making the Streets of Rage movie? Think about that.
Holy, I did not even
look
know
it
that.
up. Google it. I'm not making this up, right? So again, they give Microsoft everything they're looking for. They give them the growth vector in Japan and that whole Eastern region. They give them PC devs, and they give them a premier mobile publisher. And do not forget, this is the last thing I will say. You can look this up on your own. Sonic has over 1.5 billion with a B downloads on mobile.
Well, there you go.
And that's how recognizable that IP is, and that's just the beginning. Hey, think of a AAA Streets of Rage that works like Sifu.
Yeah, you could. I mean, there are plenty of things they could do, but here's the question, everyone: if they don't actually acquire them, how do they expand?
No. But again, the same way OpenAI is expanding. You're going to take the 49% stake. So now when you invest money into them, you own half of that company. So it's still investing into yourself, right? So for example, if we look at ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
They have that stake, and ChatGPT uses all Azure servers to run their large language model, right? And Microsoft, for their part, because again, they're half owner of that company. They're the ones entering into contracts with NVIDIA to provide the chips. They're the ones who are letting these things run in their data centers, and that's entirely where that lives, and they're investing in the hardware. So it's okay for them to invest that kind of money because they have ownership of the part of the business that they care
Yeah,
about.
so I mean, the way you could see that then, Everborn, is that they would go get a studio, hire them to make a game from the IP list, right? Not expand Sega to do it themselves.
I don't think it's either or. I think it's both and.
Yeah, I
Right?
agree.
I
I
just
think it's
don't
both
know
ends.
that you can do that without acquiring them. And the price is so small, I just don't see it being that big a deal. And
Well, when you say
Like-
you don't
like
know you
Kit-
can do it without acquiring them, what do you mean?
I don't think it's the dollar signs it's the issue at that point.
it's
That's when
hiring
people are going to start looking and saying, okay, publisher 1, now giant publisher 2, and now publisher 3, all within 2 years. They're going to start. You know what I mean? There's going to be some more pushback than there already is now. I
Well,
think
but
so.
this one,
okay,
this
to
one's
that
an
point.
easier one, and I think Asante, you said this right. This is like a give me because of their 98.2 market share differential, right?
Mhm.
And so since they have that gimme, I think you were saying get the biggest thing you can get, but I think this is a gimme. I don't like what regulator is going to come in and say, oh well, you have 2% market share, that's too big.
But it's more
That's
than
only
that.
in Japan. That's a
Well,
2%
wait a
market
minute.
share only in Japan.
And that's
specifically.
where they're trying to acquire, right? That's the market they're going after. It's Japan, right? So
no, I know what Mag's saying.
I don't know, man.
Mag, I know what you're saying, but I do have I'm gonna add to what Hargeet is saying. So yes, there is the 2% thing in Japan. It technically shouldn't be an issue, and I don't expect that Sony will complain over this. However, what you're talking about would be real if anyone could legitimately argue that Sega's IP is going to be a market mover, right? Because remember,
Correct.
they need some legal basis to block this, right? And you have to slice up a market. Again, we saw the FTC try to slice up the market. They made it too small, and that's why they lost. But the size of the ABK deal is what warranted all the scrutiny, which I am totally for. Now, take for example, the reason that they cleared Activision is because as a publisher, Activision plus Xbox is somewhere between 5 and 10% of all the video game publishing market.
Yes.
Right? Now, Sega, if Activision is between 5 and 10%, what do we think Sega is? Because what you looked at, what is similar in every one of these regulators' charts, they said, let's go back for the last 5 years. Call of Duty games are the top 10 seller in the last 5 of 5 years, right? They're in the top 10, close to the top. You cannot point to any Sega game that in the last 5 years, even if you go back 10 years, that will say this is in the top 10 of sellers. So when you look at revenue, when you look at the sales they do, now they hold a high position in my heart, but regulators who have to hit thresholds before they can deem something anti-competitive or at least significantly enough to review, Sega won't hit those metrics no matter how big Microsoft is. Right. And so I don't think there is a credible case, on top of the fact that no one expects Sony is going to go to regulators and say they can't compete without the blue blur.
I mean, and Sega is possibly the most aligned against Nintendo and Sony, since Nintendo was their primary competition until Sony came along and demolished them. Right. So and Xbox was the sort of successor, right? And that took most of their games and took their freaking executive, right? And made it, took Peter Moore and brought him over, right? So it's very, very organic. It's pretty damn organic.
Might be the most organic.
And they have a lot of partnership, like a long-term partnership. So, and as you said, they've worked with them on games. They've taken their studio to make their game. I mean, there's a lot going on there. To me, it's pretty easy. I don't think this one will be pushed back, even with Lena Khan, because she's seen the tea leaves of what happens when you go, do that, right? Her own party is gonna say, "Wait a second, what are you doing here?" Right? Because it was the Democrat from Washington who said, hey, Sony has a monopoly position in Japan. Why are they being allowed to block this? Why are they, causing issues, right? So I think they do, like Asante said, there's a gimme here. There's a gimme. They can get what they want here. And it's very
Now,
easy to take that alignment with Sega.
I-
And I know it doesn't sound like a lot. One of the things Phil wants is mindset, just mind share, to say people in Japan, some developer, some whatever, they know that Xbox is there, right? The problem is that they just don't have it. And so nobody ever considers, oh, I have to put my game on this platform too. And that arcade thing it's no joke, because it's going to be big exposure for them. That Xbox is something that you should see, right?
And
I'm just saying those are things that are interesting here.
Yeah, and Mag, I completely get the question you're asking.
I'm just asking. I'm posing questions as to possibilities
absolutely.
of, obviously from a legal standpoint, you're 100% correct. I'm just saying, is there a possibility that people start saying, okay, where do we draw the line? Where's the precedent here?
Well,
that's
so
what I'm just asking.
Let me throw something. Let me throw you some chum, right?
All right.
The new proposed rules by the FTC, if they are adopted, say that they can look at not just a single acquisition, but look at acquisitions in a series and try to, in a particular industry, to try to tie them together. Again, this is not how the law currently works today. So they can have that goal and that rule all they want. It does mean they'll try to block it, but as soon as it goes to federal court, they'll say that's not how the law works. You need to look at each individual thing on their merits. So I don't doubt that the FTC would try to do something if Lena Khan is still the commissioner. This is why you'll save yourself a lot of trouble if they do what Mag said, which is tighten up the partnership even more, wait a year or two. But to your point, Hargeet, this is the now flip side of that chum that I just threw you. Surprise, Mag, there was a hook in the chum. These are fishing references. There is actually a window here, right?
Exactly.
I think we are in a time right now, they call it acquisition season. That window will close and the players will be set. And so if Sega is available, let's say, do you think Tencent is going to wait until Microsoft thinks the coast is clear? Right? And so
it's not even that. Just think like the 98.2 thing exists because Nintendo is supposedly not a competitor of PlayStation. That next console is coming. If that console can play 90% of those AAA games, it's now a competitor, and that market share differential starts to shift differently, right? So you have an opportunity. Right now is the opportunity. You just take it. You have to take it. Screw who's in what power. You have to take your opportunity. You don't like if a door's opening, you just go. You don't stop. They're not going to. I think Microsoft they spent $70 billion with Lena Khan in place. They don't care. They're going to get it done. So also, I think they go.
And I don't know if this is still the case once you look at Matt spend them out of existence booty, but or peaches as they call him, right?
Thank you very much.
I don't know if this is still the case, but in their original proposal, they wanted to keep Sega stuff multi-plat, which I understood because in order to get that past regulators, if at the moment,
I don't think that's it. I think everyone 2%. It was the 2%. It's the 2% market share. They would never sell enough. I think they're looking at
it's not only never sell enough. You're going to go to regulators and say, I'm effectively pulling Sega out of your country because we only have 2% market share and blah, 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 blah. However, I think it may be a different discussion today in terms of exclusivity. But if that's what they do to get the deal over the line, after Activision and those contracts are enforced and Microsoft is living up to their word, there is no regulator on earth that can say Microsoft lived up to their word on Call of Duty, so they can't be trusted on Streets of Rage. It is not a thing that will happen. So closing the Activision deal and living up to their end of the deal, if you look at, you'll be able to tie Activision to Mojang with Minecraft, and no one can make that argument that, there's the financial incentive of whatever, get the F out of my face. So that's literally what a judge and Microsoft's lawyers would say. So I don't think there will be grounds to even block it. And if you want to go for the you can't trust them angle, that won't work either. Not once you have COD, the most valuable IP, and they're still keeping that multiplat. You know what I mean? It would be hard to block Sega.
Yeah, I don't even think it would go that far. I think pretty much everybody would just agree. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, but the reason it wouldn't go that far is because they would game it out by exactly what we're saying here.
Is there anybody else in the running that we know of?
Square.
No, not as far
That's
as
looking at that. No, I'm saying that's looking at Sega. Like, is there any urgency? That's another thing I'm looking at too.
That's always hard to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, see that, and that's the thing, Hargeet. You're absolutely correct, and I do want to bring in
what if it's Sony? Although I don't think Sega would ever go for that. But
no.
But remember, we all thought that Bungie was coming home, and it still might. I have this theory that Bungie is a sleeper agent, and Microsoft said we're talking to you, and we're going to send you over to Sony, cancel all their multiplayer projects. And then say we're gonna part amicably. We still own our IP, and then Microsoft gives them a cool 1.5 billion because they already made their money from Sony.
Yeah,
so right after that employee retention thing vests, and everybody gets their payout. Everybody leaves. They walk away. They come home. But anyway.
Bungie's like that purple-haired toxic ex-girlfriend that people keep going back to. You're like, I'm not going back to her. I'm not going back to her. And somehow they end up in your house and they end up taking half your stuff. Yeah, I don't know how Bungie keeps getting away with it.
Mag, it's the sex. No, so
yeah, exactly.
It's got to be
crazier the better, right? You know how it is.
So the last thing I'll say on that is, Sony made a panic buy when the deal was announced. They bought an Xbox studio, one that we all expected to come home because we heard the talks. Could Sony make Sega an offer just because they know the mind share the mind F that it would be to all the Sega fans?
Again, assuming they're allowed to buy anything in Japan, but
I mean, maybe not. But like that would be. Listen. Somebody would need to check on me. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's not going to happen. But listen,
others out there, right? Saudi Arabia is investing.
Yes,
Embracer, they might just come back.
Tencent,
like Tencent's always out there.
They're always
and
working.
Then there's all these other companies. Like, look, Comcast almost bought EA, right? So what says they don't say, hey, you know what, this is available, let's go buy them, or Square's available? You don't know what they might go after, right? So there's all sorts of companies looking to cash in on this, especially ones that are in the movie industry, where they're finding the movie industry is floundering and the gaming industry is continuing to expand. So they want in on the next media for the medium for entertainment. So you never know.
No, they can kill one bird with many birds with one stone if they grab Sega, especially when you talk about transmedia, Sonic. Those
Paramount,
films,
like you were saying, right? I mean, Paramount might just say, "Hey, what the heck? Right? We have a partnership here. Let's go."
Yeah.
Paramount needs to do something because their streaming numbers are
they're dead. Yeah, they're terrible. Listen, Asante, I want to bring you in on the conversation. You had a chance to hear everyone break down Sega, but before I do, I want to read we have a ton of super chats here, so I do want to catch up with them, at least half of them now, and I'll come back to the other. First of all, the first two of the day come the way of Drawn TJ, drops not one but $2 super chats and says, "Hi guys, buy Sega. Isn't Sega a private company? If so, get them right away next year online. 3 to 13
absolutely
billion.
Not a private company.
They're traded publicly. I'm almost positive. Yeah, Sega Sammy's
but
public.
The point might be that you can buy just the Sega component as a private party deal.
Yes, you can, and that's the other point. If Sammy would give that up, there's really not much that can be done in terms of we are actually just buying an asset from a company, right?
Yes.
Microsoft bought Xandr from AT&T for $1 billion. That's their OTT ad platform. Regulators looked at it for like 2 seconds and were like, go ahead, because you're not buying a whole company. You're not taking them
buying
off the
just
market,
the asset from the company.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a thing that happens all the time and super easy to get through regulators.
Yeah, you just never know. His second super chat of $5 says, "Don't forget they made Phantasy Star Universe, and Sega has created Creative Assembly, the people that made Total War RTS games." JD Gamer drops a very generous $2 super chat and simply says in all caps, "Sega, let's get it." Indeed, Game Punisher drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, rules of DBG drinking game. 1, take a drink every time you hear someone say right, and must stop at 100% risk alcohol poisoning. I see what you did there, Game Punisher. Listen, it's his thing. What can I tell you? Highlander 001 drops a $5 super chat and says, Sega has sold all of its remaining shares in the physical arcade business to Genda in 2023, so they are free of that. I did not know that. Good. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for the super chat. We also have Andy Hart drops a very generous £5 super chat and says, personally, I think Microsoft would be better suited to buy specific licenses from Sega and Capcom's panel and Capcom panel stores. Yeah, I mean, Capcom isn't getting rid of any of their IP. I can tell you that right now. They are making.
We'll
a lot
take
of
Power
money.
Stone off their hands since they
I
don't want to
will
do
take
nothing with
Power
it.
Stone in a freaking second. There's no
Listen,
doubt about it.
they're not using it. I can make them an offer, right? Let me see if I could like borrow some money from my 401k. Capcom, let's talk.
Let's Capcom, let's sell the Dino Crisis license because you ain't doing nothing with it, for crying out loud. Let's see. JD Gamer drops a
Shout out to Gerald,
$5
man.
super chat and says,
You ain't doing this.
I want my Panzer Dragoon Saga RPG remake and sequel. That can be the answer to Final Fantasy being exclusive to PlayStation. Who on the panel played the original? Dude, I played the S out of that. I'm not just talking about, the RPG one. The RPG one is god tier amazing. And a lot of people didn't even play that. And if you had that now, if you had it sealed, forget about it. It's worth thousands. Sir X-Men and the rest of the super chats, we'll get to you in a second. Kay Asante, what do you want to say about Sega? Because obviously you have kids, and even though they are Mario fans, Sonic is still one of those IPs that I mean you talk about it all the time, is more popular now than he was in the 90s. Sega joining Xbox in any form or fashion is going to be a big deal.
So I like to give I like to always give the opposing view on our show,
Sure.
because it's more fun that way. But in this specific instance, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, for obvious reasons,
You have to agree.
I have to completely agree. Yeah, there is people can take this hypothetical view and go very far, and I try to from time to time and say, hey, as Hargeet has said, I've said it already as well, like in this specific scenario, they have a small, slowly closing window. And within that small closing window, whatever they want, everyone will grin their teeth and they'll bear it, because you've already established that you have a huge gap in the market for them, right? So, they could literally get away with their hands in the cookie jar with anything they want, and everybody would just kind of be like, that cheesy smile that you give when you really don't want it, but you're gonna let it slide anyway. They get one of those. I call it the mulligan. You get one, right? So, that's why I'm like, well, if that's what your situation is, why don't you go for the gusto? Get whatever you can. But if you tease it out, really, it's true that of the entire environment and whatever Bon is describing here, as far as the market, as far as taking the 49% ownership, I suspect we will start seeing more of that from them, because even though this is this ABK acquisition will ultimately prove out to be successful, it just took too much out of them. It took them taking their eye off the ball. It took all this other extra stuff to get this thing across the line. And I mean, as you're describing it now, and I mean, at work we're talking about it. I work in an environment where these things are very much front of mind. AI is literally ruling the roost. If you check Microsoft's, like, even their store, their Microsoft store, if you go there now, there's an AI hub. They're literally like refashioning their entire office and product suite to conform to this new AI reality, although they technically don't own the company, right? So the only thing
doing that, right, Kay?
Well, yeah, of course, because
they're trying to integrate so fast in case
by the time
comes down.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Like right now, it's a charm offensive, right? That like it's all about what it can do for you, so that when the regulators finally like wise up, by then, hopefully, it'll be so integrated into your life that there's no way that they can.
Like,
can
we're
pull
gonna
it
go out
apart
of
from you.
business. We can't separate this.
Exactly, and all the while, like, can you imagine that? Can you imagine renting renting furniture and then building your whole house around it? That's literally what Microsoft is doing right now. They presumably the idea of owning the 49% stake means they don't own the whole company. True, but they're building their whole platform, portfolios, products around AI that they technically don't own. Right? It's a way to inoculate yourself from all the regulators' eyes and the prying eyes and all that. And of course, Tencent has been doing, as we'll talk about. Tencent has been doing that for ages now. Right? They've been slowly but surely buying up stakes here and there, slowly but surely, buying up pieces of the puzzle here. So, I do suspect that moving forward in more tumultuous areas, you may see some of those strategies being employed, right? But in the case of Japan, I don't think they necessarily need that, right? They as we've described, the mulligan is right there. It won't last forever, but even now, they may do it. Although I will say I am on Mag's side of the house here because they what do you call it? Sega's not in a rush to be purchased, right? You've already gotten them to the point where they are basically in your ecosystem as far as the hardware they're using, the technologies they're using. Every time they talk about you, they talk in glowing terms. They have strategic partnerships with you. They're literally like betting their next big thing game-wise on your infrastructure with the Super Game Initiative and whatnot, right? So unless like Amazon shows up with like Amazon levels of money, which it's unlikely, but them and maybe Apple are the only ones who could potentially break it. It's doubtful that Sega will stray from the current path they're on, right? So I do agree with the Mag that chances are you're not going to see, even though the window is closing and small, you're not going to see them, go out right now and be like, oh, the dust ain't settled yet on this ABK thing. Guess what, Sega? I don't know about all that, right?
That's what I'm saying. Asante's on board.
I don't know about all that. See, and to put a bit more cold water on this thing, just a little bit. Why? This is my point. To put a little more cold water on this thing, the hedgehog thing. If, like, in a world where this is a targeted marketing approach, I suspect that before you get it on Twitter, the ink is dry on the page first. There's no way they'd be telegraphing this thing before the ink was dry on the page on Twitter.
But we have evidence against that, right?
Yeah, we do have evidence. We have anecdotal evidence from a time that now we know that's what they were doing at the time they were doing what they were doing. Yes, we have that. That's true. Absolutely. Do we need another deal? No. I hear you.
Court papers to come out and see in 2023 they were back on the table.
My only thing is threading the needle of like freaking the Windows Twitter account. Like
not even the Windows, the Edge Windows account.
Edge, you know what I mean?
Like, I totally get it, and it's cute, and they're like they know what they're doing though. Of
course they do. I think they're being allowed to go wild, and that's freaking awesome. Let them loose. Let them be tongue in cheek. I suspect someone is literally like, mark my words, okay? Everyone is always talking smack. Someone from Microsoft is following Everborn Saga, and he or she is loving this because with every new tweet, this man's head is exploding even more in DMs and in public. Oh my God, I swear. Someone out there will one day out themselves and say, look, I'm sorry, bro. This was me the whole time. I swear to God, that's what's happening right now. Because, man, this is too much right now.
I think I know who it is. Okay.
Oh, I might know who it is too, bro. I've been looking around. This is a little too tongue-in-cheek these days. Honestly, I think they're having fun. I think they're allowed to be having fun because, we're all humans here. Let them have fun. Let them see us not as automaton. It all works for them.
Exactly.
But I don't think necessarily that it means like it would have to literally be done already to let the Twitter folks know, to let X.com know, you know what I'm saying?
I don't think that this means that. I don't think there's anything inked yet. And I think I don't know that I believe it'll be January, but I do believe those talks are happening.
I don't disagree with that at all.
If they haven't happened, they will happen.
They're happening
because
now,
they can't afford for them to come out right now. And so once the deal is done, I do think that
And
those things will happen, but those don't happen overnight. That could take until
Sure.
2025. And I
Exactly,
think the best
exactly,
course
yeah.
of action is wait until the current regulatory regime changes. Sarah Cardell and Lena Khan are not going to be there forever, and each new
Absolutely.
head of
And
these things wants to make their mark.
Even those who aren't Sarah Cordell and Lena Khan can look at this right after the dust is settling, still remember the whole ABK crap on the shoe, and then have a side eye if you tell me you're trying to buy something else, right? It's in everyone's best interest that the dust settles a little bit.
That's what I'm trying to say.
No,
You know
no,
what?
no,
This is the most
let me
exciting
be clear.
dynamic.
Let me be clear, though.
Yeah.
Let me be clear. There's nothing from a legal standpoint that tells them they can't do that. You can't. There's nothing from a legal standpoint that tells you can't do that while you can't be in the middle of one while talking about another. You can't. Nothing says they can't do it. It's just that
they bought
because
Nuance
PR
in 2022
Exactly.
for $20 billion.
Yes.
Right?
Well, but let's be clear here. Because this specific case is so on Front Street, and it's making such huge swings, right? And because ABK has had such an outsized interest by the public and the community and people talking about it and podcasts and all of that, I think all that does matter, though. And because of that, it's not a situation where, oh my God, we're going to lose out, right? They have that strategic partnership with Sega. They can cool their heels and still get ultimately what they want.
Until Sega
If it
gets
wasn't
another
that
offer on the
gay,
table.
if it wasn't that way, I do see that they would test the waters, right?
Yeah.
Because, like I said, the window is closing. But I think because of look at the way the CEO is moving. You want to get purchased? Not now. But we appreciate the way they move with us. They respect us more than other. It's all
But
in
he
the.
said that
pump your
2
brakes
weeks
for
ago.
me.
It's no longer now.
This is why I'm asking
So-
if anybody's interested in Sega, because if this window's closing, there's no urgency, right?
Yeah.
There's no urgency because there's nobody else sitting at the table counter offering, is what I'm saying, right?
You don't know who's at the
Yeah, we don't know who's
No, we don't know. We don't know. I know. We don't know.
To you, Mag.
Yeah.
I want to be fair to you, Mag, because we
Right.
have some precedents for this, right? It will be up to the shareholders to reach out to other people if they get an offer. So they will have to reach out to Microsoft if someone comes to the table with the offer, because you can't take the first deal someone offers you. You saw that Bobby K, when Phil made the offer, he had to go back to the board, and the board told him, see if you can get a better offer somewhere else before they would consider.
Of course.
So he
That's
says, we're on the
procedure.
table. Do you want to pay more? So I think you're onto something. So if something does come up, I'm sure they would go to Microsoft saying, hey, this is about to go down.
Yeah.
Can you beat them?
And
look-
Microsoft has the clout to beat them, right? They can outbid
does
almost
Amy
anybody on the
have
planet.
a will? Does Amy?
Well,
have
but
the
you
will
know
to
what
do so?
Any one of
everyone.
many companies could, right?
See, much like with this whole with this ABK thing, where they're now going back to phase one because it'll ultimately get them where they're going. You and I have postured that if that was not the option, they would have played chicken to the end, right? And because they've been given a better option, that's why they are now going back to phase one. I am saying that in the case of an acquisition in Japan, if the window was closing and there was no option there, I think they would test the waters. But because everything you've already laid out, and you've laid it out quite well, even in a world where they don't have a window that's closing that we all can see, right? They have Sega in pocket. They are working together. Sega is very approachable, very amenable, technology in pocket, the whole thing. So specifically for Sega, they can wait because they already got them in pocket. And you need two willing participants to make this deal work. And it's not like we're coming in and upsetting the apple cart. It looks like Sega's also interested. So in that instance, and you can push back on me, I think that because they have all those things lined up well, specifically with Sega, they don't need to strike so darn hot right now because they got
But you're
Sega.
saying they would go with somebody
had
else?
things- They had things lined up with Crystal Dynamics and IDOS were already working for them. And where did those go? Somebody could come.
That's
to
what
the
I'm
table
saying.
and make an offer, and
Hargeet,
they're not gonna wait for you.
and that's what I want to hear
Now-
from Hargeet.
Yeah.
Hargeet, what were you just saying?
So here's the thing, right? So first, they already know they're going to buy these people, right? Because that's already been in all the documentation that they got, right? And we're not redacted, though they should have been. the FTC already knows about this. The CMA already knows about this. The EU already knows about this. All the regulators already know that they have a short list of people they're buying, and this was one of the ones that
Sega
was on that list.
was basically
So,
almost a
I
done
don't
deal.
think there's any world in which one of them is like, oh, I can't believe they actually went and bought the one that they told us they're going to buy. Like, come on, like they're going to buy them. It's just, I don't even look at that
Let's
as
be
an
clear
option.
here.
That's an
That
issue.
argument, it's not that they'd buy someone else first. It's that they would wait until ABK would settle.
I don't think that matters.
There'd be some proper news. You know, it'd become the whole acquisition season thing would be behind them before you'd hear it again.
So the reason I think that's not the case is you don't create an M&A group if your job isn't to do M&A. So they're doing that. That is part and parcel of what Xbox is doing, right? So it's not the corporate. They have an Xbox M&A group. They're going. And
now Sony has just literally hired someone for. And
they literally just
quote,
announced that today. Yes,
this is their quote, not mine. Inorganic growth, which is hilarious. Hilarious.
Right?
They're literally.
I don't think they're stopping.
Just feeding right into it. That's amazing.
But one other thing I do want to add to what you're saying, Hargeet, the delta between ZeniMax closing and Activision being announced is 9 months.
9 months,
right?
Yes.
They closed in March. They announced in January.
Exactly. Yep. And so the first thing, I think they're going to go buy smaller stuff. They're just going to go get some smaller studios that they can just pick up without any regulatory headache, right? And then I kind of agree with Boom. Sometime in that first quarter of the year, I think they announce. I think they're going to, because if you don't take advantage of it, you're a fool. Right now, we're in negotiations to create a new Japan trade agreement, right? This is the time you strike when your
100%.
government is backing you, right? To say you need to compete in that market. You take it, just like you were saying, Asante. Look, that window keeps closing. If you keep saying, "Oh, it's okay, this is something that they've got in the bag," nothing's in the bag. When you have the governments around the world saying, "Yes, we're going to go with it," just take it. Just take it. Like, I see no reason not to just take it.
Yeah.
Japan yielded 10 seconds after our government said, "What's going on?" Right? Literally, JFTC came out and said, "We're good with the deal. Go, no issues. Go."
But
right?
See,
so
at the very least, Hargeet, I would say not now, because they have to wait for Activision to close.
No. We're not saying
that. But when Activision closes, it will no longer be now.
Which we understand to be at the latest October. Hopefully, it's in August, right? But at the latest October, which is why I think that first.
I think it closes in the next 2 weeks, but that's just me.
Yeah, I hope that's true, right? But again, if it's even if it is October, fine. That's why I think the first quarter, sometime Jan to March, I think they're going to have that announcement for the Sega.
Also, to be clear, I wasn't saying no to this either. I'm just saying it's all about the timing.
Yes,
the timing. I know we know what you meant, man.
The timing is key to this. By the way, I'm enjoying the fact that this dynamic tonight. Guys, everybody in the chat, hit that like button. You know why? Because we're not agreeing with each other, and this is where this is perfect conversation. This is how it should be. Instead of everybody nodding our heads in agreement, we're actually pushing back. It's a lot of fun. Right? And gentlemen's bets are coming, folks. Let me tell you something. You guys saying I'm saying there will not be an announcement in January. So that's my gentleman's bet with you guys. So we'll revisit this.
Annoying bet.
We'll revisit this in February.
The one chip challenge.
My gentleman's bet.
The one chip challenge. Let's do it.
My gentleman's bet is that someone will announce themselves. They'll come out. They'll mea culpa. They'll apologize. They'll say, "Look, I gotta say it. I really apologize. Everborn, it was all me. You know, I got the marketing department to jump behind me. My cousin had a hedgehog. It just went out of control. I apologize."
What is this like? What is this like? Cape Fear? They're just like.
Listen, guys.
I saw the podcast. I was interested. I just took it too far. You know.
Let me take 2 minutes to catch up on these super chats, because I mean, there is an S ton of them. Sir X-Man drops a $2 super chat and says, "Don't forget Sega and Virtual Fighter IP." Yeah, dude, Virtual Fighter is a dormant IP. There, could you imagine if they worked with? And again, this is crazy talk, folks. The creator of Ninja Gaiden, who's no longer with that studio, has his own Valhalla Studios. Right, he's doing his own thing. Could you imagine if in 2024 they announced this? And again, a lot of these games are going to take years to make. Could you imagine giving him the Shinobi license, saying, "Yeah, we got it from Sega. Go make a Ninja Gaiden type of game"? I'm just saying that, like, there is so much potential with this Sega acquisition that it's madness, because a Pixelbit G, who's in the chat, said, and he's been saying this, I've seen him say this for forever. Wouldn't it be dope if they brought a Daytona type edition to one of the Forzas? And the answer is that would be effing crazy, because could you imagine hearing that rolling start? I would lose my shit. I listen to the soundtrack. It's just
Daytona versus Forza. Imagine those competitions,
dude. It's a lot. There's so much IP here. Like, everyone talks about Nintendo and everyone talks about Sony IP, but no one really talks about Sega IP, man.
It's more interesting that maybe those teams that are working on Forza may want to jump over to something different, and this gives them the opportunity to do that, right?
Yes.
To get, hey, it's an existing IP. We're just gonna, instead of Forza Horizon 6, or that's probably already in the works, 7 will be Daytona, right? We'll just do something.
It would be
different,
a Daytona game. It would be a straight up Daytona arcade game, which is just crazy. JD Gamer drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Revive Sega as the fighting king. They used to be. They used to be. I want Virtual Fighter Reborn, Fighting Vipers, Last Bronx. Oh my god, I remember that. And Fighters Mega Mix.
Wait a minute. Virtua Cop.
Someone actually, there's a super chat in here. Hold on, where is it? It was JD Gamer. He says, I need a light gun game, Reborn, House of the Dead, Die Hard, etc. I want remakes of and sequels to Shining Force 3, Dragon Force, and Magic Knight Raider.
I mean, between the Activision acquisition and this potential Sega, they could have a division that literally rekindles the fire for all your 80s properties, like every
100%,
single one.
1,000%.
Listen, you want to talk about small acquisitions that would go a long way? Domatu, I think that's how you pronounce it. Kay, keep me honest on that. That would be a perfect studio to get to pair them with Sega, because they make they're the ones bringing back the 2D games and the best. And let's be clear, they are behind Streets of Rage 4 and Shredder's Revenge and Wonder Boy Dragon's Trap.
All your favorite
every
remakes.
one of those games are bangers, bro. Like straight up bangers. Every one of them. Every one of them.
Imagine imagine getting Sega and either partnering with them or buying them and say, you know what, go to town.
Go freaking crazy, because now you got
resources. We don't care. Just do it.
Whatever. David Lyons drops a $5 super chat and says, no one talks about Wonder Boy or Monster Boy. Those games are fantastic and are huge in Japan, and of course are made by Sega. JD Gamer says, I almost forgot Sega, baby. For $2 super chat. And he drops he drops 2 additional super chats. One of $5 says, somebody save me. I might be more excited than Everborn Saga. I need Microsoft to pull this off. I need Sega IP to be brought back. I need this to happen. Then he drops an additional $10 super chat and says, Xbox lost access to Dev's Cloud Engine, Double Helix, Iron Galaxy, Eidos, Crystal Dynamics, and more. Xbox needs to bring these devs in-house as opposed to waiting to try and buy later. Folks, I listen, I say this all the time, and I really mean it. When Crystal Dynamics and Eidos were sold to Embracer, it broke my heart.
Travesty.
Those games, those studios, for $300 million. Think about this for a second. Now, ABK is going to be good, 5 and 10 years down the road for investors. But just imagine as a gamer, let's look at this from a gamer's point of view. You're Microsoft. Could you imagine having these 2 studios that know how to make third-person, over-the-shoulder, story-driven games, and on top of that, you got Tomb Raider IP, you own Lara Croft now, you have all of those IP. It was crazy that wasn't a Microsoft thing. Like, that would have been a Microsoft IP now. Lara Croft would have been first party. There is your Nathan Drake. I understand, like, oh yeah, but we have Indiana Jones. Not really, because that's Disney. They have an exclusive, sure, which is awesome. But could you imagine owning the Tomb Raider IP, it's one of those things that I don't want to see happen to something like Sega.
Boom.
And
It
Give
could still
Peaches
happen.
time, man. Give
Yeah,
Peaches
it could
time. What's
still
going on,
happen.
yes,
Hargeet?
spend them
Give
out
Peaches
of existence.
time. Come on.
Let's bring in Peaches. Let's make the call.
Yeah,
Hitman,
right.
he drops a $2 super chat and he says Sega 10 times. So that means
I just pictured Bowser singing the Peaches song, and that's
There you
what
go.
Matt Booty plays whenever he walks into the office every day.
But he
Oh,
wouldn't be
that's so
singing it with
good.
love. It'd be different connotations.
It'd be a different kind of Peaches. I absolutely agree. I think it would be stomping and
Oh,
scratching
man.
and snuffing out people. Dean Rivera drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Don't know if this was asked. Does Xbox respond with a mid-gen refresh when Sony's comes out next year? Do you think it will
Oh,
look bad if
boy.
they don't?" I'm going to be honest with you, Dean. I think we're going to try and cover this on Friday on Breakfast with Boom because it's a big topic. You know what, Dean? This is what we're going to do. I have a guest, a panel of 4 people tomorrow for X Vlog Live at 12. It's usually a one-on-one. I have Dusty joining us. I have C Money, and I have Mr. Badbit. I'm going to take what you wrote here, and we're going to make that a topic on whether or not Microsoft needs to respond. We're going to talk about that tomorrow on X Vlog Live, brother. So thank you for the idea. Hitman drops an additional. Wait a second. 1, 2, 3 more $2 super chats, and all he says is Sega 10 times. Because he wants Sega so bad. I agree. JD Gamer drops an additional $5 super chat and says, "We have a crazy X in Square out there dating our enemy Sony, throwing it in our faces. I say go marry the prettier girl Sega." You're not wrong, man. You're not wrong. We have JD Gamer drops an additional $5 super chat. Says the key to this acquisition season is don't miss out on any more opportunities. Get what you can get while you can get it. Sega and Asobo, let's get it. And Enigmatic Dreams drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "Screw it, Capcom and Sega take no prisoners." Listen, I'll say this, and we'll get everyone's final thoughts on this because obviously we're rolling into the 2-hour mark in about 22 minutes. So, folks, don't go anywhere. We're still going to be talking about this. Hargeet, if Sega comes to fruition, what is the one IP for you that you must see come back in a big way?
I think the one that's interesting to me is Shinobi. I think like bringing back something like that would be interesting if they're going to bring back something from Sega's catalog. We've already seen sort of the Sonic come back in 2D and 3D, and we'll see how the 2D one goes. It looks like it could be fun. But we haven't seen like Shinobi in a long time.
Long time, dude. Like a super long time.
And I like some of the things Everborn was saying. You could take things like Golden Axe, you could take things like Altered Beast, and make like totally new types of games out of them, right? Just reimagine altogether. And that would be kind of fantastic. But I think Shinobi, it's just one of those things they probably should have, right? Neo, we missed out. Neo 2, we missed out. We did get Wo Long, but there's now another one, Ronin, Rise of the Ronin. Was that whatever the one?
Right, yeah, that Sony, looks really good, dude.
Right.
That looks like
so that
really
looks pretty good. And we just keep missing out on these. Like this would be the foil to that. It's like, we got this, right? So, having that come back, boy, Lord Cognito will be happy, right?
Yes, so, he'd fall out of his chair.
But yeah, I think that one is kind of interesting that they haven't really done anything with that in a while. I think that would be the one that I would look for as far as from them. So are we asking about other ones? Just that?
Okay, that's a strong.
If we're just looking at Sega, then yeah, I would say that.
Okay,
and on your thing about Crystal, don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they might just be able to get them.
Well, I mean, all jokes aside, could you imagine if there's somewhere where Microsoft says, "Look, you paid $300 million for everything. We'll give you that amount for the 2 studios. We'll do it in 2 separate purchases." So what that does is gets it out of regulatory eyes. $150 million for the studio. I don't know if they can get I don't know if Microsoft wants it or has. I mean, they have the money, but would embrace or want to get rid of the Tomb Raider IP.
I think they structure it differently, where they say, you know what, we'll buy the studio, You can keep the IP. We'll license it for 10 years with the option to buy
Nope.
afterwards.
Nope.
And that way they
Take
don't.
that IP.
What was that?
Don't even play around. Take the IP and
Take the
embrace
IP.
what is
Okay.
on their
It's
knees
the
right now.
money part of it, right? And it's not that Microsoft can't spend the money. It becomes bigger than the regulatory.
It's a regulatory
Well,
thing.
no. I got you though. I got you.
So
I
that's
got
why
you.
I say you do like a 10-year
I-
license with an option to buy at the end.
I got a better idea.
Yep.
Hargeet. Remember, Embracer lost a $2 billion deal, right?
Yeah.
He
Revenue
did.
stream. And I'm not saying you do a $2 billion deal with them, but you give them a lifeline and you say, we're going to pay you X amount of money to put this many games in Game Pass, and you make up
Which is
for
viable.
them the money they lose on selling you the Tomb Raider Crystal Dynamics with the IP. You're gonna buy that for $100 million, but really it's more because you're overpaying on the Game Pass deal. And now regulators can't. That might be illegal. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
You're reassigning like horribly. Like it is if they kind of sniff it. Yes. The other thing they could do is just they did get Lord of the Rings, right? They could license that instead and say, hey, we'll pay you a premium for that because it's Lord of the Rings.
Right. So you
we'll
make
pay
up
you
the
for that for
pricing
2
on the
years.
licensing, so they'll give you a discount on the studio and the IP.
Exactly, which is why I was saying,
that-
yeah, hey, like make a 10-year licensing
It's-
deal and then just say
It's
option to buy at
all
the end, right?
perfectly legal.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I like what everyone's putting down. Mag,
Yeah.
before I get to you, brother, I want to first of all we have we have Hitman. He has gifted, and this is crazy, Hitman. Thank you for the generosity, folks. He has gifted not 10, not 20, but 30
Wow.
subs. Double Barrel Gaming subs, which is 40 now, dude. That's crazy, bro. I cannot thank you enough for that. That is insane. And we are very, very grateful for the generosity, brother. I'm glad that you are enjoying the conversation. Hold on, we have a member chat here. I just want to grab that real quick. Where is it? I lost it. Can't find it on. Is this off with? Okay. Vanessa, good friend who has been of the channel, who I've been talking to in DMs. She says it's more than just Sega IP. Imagine marketing a Sega budgeted Series X and S making headway in Japan, having Sega labels all over the box and console. Every old school fan would be importing that. I would definitely import that. I used to import stuff all the freaking time.
Let me tell you something. Boom. I will take my next trip to Japan to go and buy that from the stores on day one when it releases.
I agree.
I'll do
100%.
more than I'm not even joking, right? I owe the family a trip to Japan because the last time I was there, I was with coworkers and not the family. So listen, don't play with me.
Listen, I'm here for it. Mag, before you got to get out of here, brother.
Yep.
What is the one Sega IP that does it for you that you're like, if this happens, this has to happen. This they have to revive this Series X.
Well, what you need is that hashtag just won $200 million sad dad, grizzled, old, depressed Alex Kidd in Miracle World. Bring him back with a beard and his little fur coat and his little child bitching at him. I'm just kidding. Alex Kidd in Miracle World's a great game. It's actually one of my favorite games of the Sega Master System. But anyways,
It's a good game.
oh, I love that. And actually, you can play the remake now. It's fantastic. Anyhow, all seriousness. I got to once again agree with pretty much everybody here. I'm gonna name two actually. Shinobi, in the style of, let's say, like a Ghost of Tsushima or a Tenchu Stealth Assassin, kind of game. Give me that. I would be 100% with that. And you know what? You don't have to make it gigantic, open world, 750,000 hour open world game. Keep it tight. Keep it tight like this new Assassin's Creed that's coming out this fall, right? Like, you know how it's like a smaller experience in a smaller area? It's condensed. Do that for a Shinobi. Put it in a bunch of Japanese villages or a city or whatever, right? Keep it tight. Keep it concise. Keep it to a 25 to 30 hour game, but make it really damn good so that, you know what, a 25 to 30 hour game, you could spend 5 hours in the shadows, just waiting for the, the guard to walk by or whatever the hell. It's just like when I used to play the first, the old Splinter Cells way back when, right? I used to sit there for 25 minutes underneath a staircase waiting for a dude to walk by, right? I have the patience to do that kind of stuff. Do that with Shinobi. I'd be all in. The other one, now this one, I would say I'd want like a little bit of a bigger game. Let's go with an Altered Beast open world, Horizon Forbidden West size world. Excuse me, I'm choking on a peanut. And you know what you do with that? You won't be able to access certain areas unless you're able to change, and you have to get like an upgrade.
Oh, dude, that's great.
So, like, let's say, let's talk verticality. Let's talk wall running. Let's talk. Okay, I can't get to this section until I RPG myself and upgrade myself into like a panther or a werewolf or whatever, and then I'd be able to jump high enough to reach the next section. And then you could utilize that during combat. You could change between werewolf, this and that, whatever, the different other animals and whatever. And then you'd be able to use that for combat. You'd be able to use that for traversal.
I love it.
You go like, let's say, you're into collectibles, right? You can't access certain collectibles until you have those upgrades. So those are like all post-story content, right? Where you're like, okay, I finished this section, but there's a whole other area I can't get to. Clearly, I need an upgrade. All of a sudden, 30 hours later, you get that, like, let's say the werewolf upgrade. You go back to that level after you're done the game, and now you can access and get all those goodies and secret chests and whatever else, and access different doors and areas and whatever. All
almost like a Metrovania kind of a situation.
Yes, that too, and it's all like basically like an RPG style, and do that and make it really like real AAA, real nice. I'd be all in for all that. So that'd be exciting for me. Those are potential things that I can see in the future, and of course, as I mentioned before, you could do fun things on the side, like. You have your Forza Horizons. Why not have a Daytona Festival? And that's a DLC. Like the Lego, or not the Lego, yeah,
like
the Lego DLC, the Hot Wheels DLC. You know what I mean? Have a Daytona, and then all of a sudden it's Forza Horizon, 3-day tournament in Daytona, and you bring back the Daytona maps, all remade from the ground up, but all the original racetracks from the 80s and 90s. And just do stuff like that. That'd be so much fun. Just like Everborn said, the opportunities are endless.
I mean, Mag, I'm sorry, but like even right now, today,
Yes.
right now, screw all the BS and all the potentials to go acquire that. That is a brilliant idea that you could implement today, right?
That's
now,
what I'm trying
with their partner right now. They could do that.
See, Asante and I are on the same
we could
page.
See that next month. Like
that's what I'm saying, and that's why I'm saying forget the red tape. You don't need the red tape. All you need is the cash.
Yeah,
you just need the cash and the go ahead from the company to just say, all right, we got the cash. Go ahead and utilize it. That's it. That's all they got to do. So like instead of like I said, instead of cutting through all the red tape and all the baloney and all everything else, just do the partnership. You could do all that stuff by the end of the year.
And I mean, to your point about cash, Mag, I don't even think that there's much cash that's necessary here. You have, as Everborn was saying, you have Sega, who has eyes on bringing their IPs back to fruition. You have Microsoft, who's trying to hit that nostalgia button. All you need to do is find some licensing terms. Microsoft takes care of the rest. You're just agreeing to let them use it. They will gladly go and source assets, get the whole situation squared away. And what are you getting as that Sega? You may be getting a little bit of light cash, but you're also getting eyes on your dormant IP. So when you inevitably bring back Daytona, people remember it because it was as good as it was on Forza Horizon.
Exactly, as opposed to saying, "Oh, I remember that 35 years ago."
Exactly.
Right? No, a lot of gamers aren't even 35 years old. By the way, shout out to Coral Guy in the chat. He's saying, "Echo the Dolphins, Dark Souls."
Oh wow, yeah.
That damn octopus.
It's funny. We talked about the Sega, and he was in the chat before. I don't know if he's still here. Special Nick was from Xbox Era jumped in because obviously, if you mention Sega, that dude is one of the biggest Sega, and he gets mad because I think he says it differently. He doesn't call it. I think he doesn't call it Sega. He calls it another way. Sega. That's what he does. Yes, he says Sega. That's exactly what he says. Listen, we all love Sega. It doesn't matter how you say it. Kei Asante, first of all, let me bring you in and get your hot take on this, and we'll get everyone. We'll save him for the best for the last. But we have Hitman has become a new channel member himself. Hitman. Thank you, brothers. Generosity is just crazy. Thank you so much. And Enigmatic Dreams drops a very generous additional $2 super chat and says, screw Sega buy Tomb Raider or both. I mean, I don't know, man. I just think that the Embracers, they're doing so bad for money that I can see the reason why I see Crystal Dynamics and Eidos becoming first party isn't because I really want to will this into fruition. It's not just that. It's they're working on 2 monster first party IPs. Eidos is working on Fable. They're helping build Fable, and of course we know that Crystal Dynamics is working on Perfect Dark. So the fact that they're entrenched, both of these studios are entrenched with Microsoft and 2 major first parties. I think it's Microsoft. Microsoft, maybe they have, and we just don't know that it's in a contract that they're going to buy them. We don't know, right? Because they had to put a lot of things on hold because of ABK. They need to get these 2 studios before another blunder. But with that said, Kiyosante, what Sega or Sega IP do you want to see come back in a big way?
So, okay. I've heard a lot of these conversations and I love it. A lot of people bringing back all these cool, interesting ideas. Mine's a bit of a cheat. I have 2 and they're a bit of a cheat. Okay. I'll be honest with you. One, while we see the world coming right now, and this is my cheap one, while we see the world existing right now, where we're seeing Ratchet and Clank in its full glory on solid and non-solid state drives.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
looking its best. I would actually like to see someone pay some of that money, that kind of money, on Sonic. I would love to see that.
Sonic Slander. Okay.
Maybe not necessarily the Team Sonic vision, because they've taken it very far and they have a vision for it, right? We don't know where that will go, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So we'll see where it goes. It looks like Team Sonic has finally gotten on good footing where they're going now, both in the 3D and 2D realm. We shall see. But I want to see a full vision, balls to the wall. This is it. After this, there's nothing else. Couple $100 million Sonic game, and see what that looks like. That would be interesting to me. That's my first cheat. My second cheat, it already exists, baby. It exists. All I need is for them to keep down this partnership route, and eventually I will see it on Game Pass. And when that happens, I will be a happy, happy man. Give me Jet Set Radio Future, you fools, you cowards. You don't even have to remake it. Put the same damn thing on Game Pass so I can continue playing it, so I can stop emulating on so many devices just to get my fix. What are we doing right now? Give me my game back.
Supposedly there is a new one. There's a remake of the old OG Xbox one, supposedly in development.
Jet Set Radio Future. That's the one.
Yes.
Everybody wax lyrical about Jet Set Radio.
Give me my game, you cowards.
Come on. Well, you can even charge me for it. I'll pay again.
Mr. Kiyosante, or should I say Mr. Captain Keys.
Boy, here we go.
The thing is this: you may be getting all
Saturday
those
already?
things with no acquisition,
I love it.
because Sonic Frontiers overperformed from what they were expecting.
Oh God,
they've already gone. No,
no.
this is serious. This is serious. They've already gone on record saying they're.
How you gonna say something like that and say this is serious? Shut your mouth, man.
Okay, well, it did more than they were expecting, and they're increasing the budget.
Okay.
They're increasing the budget for the next Sonic, so it will more than likely be 9th gen. And we know that it will have a much bigger budget than the first one. That's the first thing. And
I agree with you there.
At an investor thing, they showed a
they
slide
showed off
of
the Jet Set Radio Future.
right.
Yeah,
so
the
you may be
remake.
getting both of these things without
exactly. Yeah,
Microsoft
that's why I
involved.
say it's a cheat, because for me, it's all happening right now. Right, it's definitely happening right now. I agree with you on that. I'm just and we can agree to disagree. I want to see some other team take a stab at it, because we've seen Team Sonic take many stabs at it, approach it in 2D, approach it in 3D. They sometimes they do great, sometimes they do bad. I agree with you that they have more good on the books than they do bad. I agree with you on that. I want to see the $200 million offer from an Insomniac. Give me a cinematic take, not $200 million down the same path we're on right now.
I'm down with that. That sounds hot to me, man.
Did you beat Sonic Frontiers before we talk about not the same kind of
Yes,
path
yes,
we're
I
on
did.
right
Yeah, I
now?
beat it
Yeah,
too. I
yes,
gave it
I-
a 6 out of 10.
Okay,
There you go. And
Oh,
the
wow.
story and the
why did
cinematics
you
was
give it?
just.
Why did you give it a 6 out of 10?
It was just not. There's a good game in there. It's just not out. You know what I'm saying?
There's a
Like
spark
it's
in
there.
Yeah,
The
there's a spark
DNA
in
is there for a
Yep,
great
yep.
game. And funny enough, a lot of reviewers said the same thing. By the way,
Exactly.
on a side note, could we get a Microsoft Flight Simulator Afterburner?
Someone actually just
you
said
know?
literally.
Sorry, I was just
Flight 116 said he wants a new Afterburner.
well,
I
put it in
right,
Flight
I'm
Simulator,
right there, dude.
like they
There
did the
you
Top
go.
Gun
Put it in-
thing.
Yep.
Mhm.
Let's
Absolutely.
see.
Sorry.
We got a couple of really good ones in here.
Keep going because I don't want to.
Back to Sonic Frontiers. I was going to say the last thing, and then I actually have to zip out of here. I was going to say is that there's a great game in there. The DNA is there. The problem is it was a very empty open world. It was very sparse. It was like the direction of the game seemed a little bit too convoluted. Like you didn't know exactly where you were going or what you were doing. I'm like, okay, so where do I go now? Where am I? Okay, I'm going to this place. All right, why am I going to this place? It didn't seem like it was taking it in a solid direction. I'm with Asante there, and I say, listen, I want a story, like a story-driven, a real story-driven, like a Ratchet and Clank with characters that speak properly. Give me those 3D graphics. Give me all of that. Give me the cinematics, and give me like a Ratchet and Clank story. I'm not saying it has to be exactly like Ratchet and Clank, but that style, that kind of budget, then we're talking turkey.
Yep.
Yeah,
What we
absolutely.
got,
Came
I
in
thought
with
was
the
a
movie,
good
right?
start. It almost seemed like that was a great demo for a great game that could come out in 3 years from now.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe it.
Give me a game that I can mistake for a Pixar movie, just like we get.
There you
Ratchet
go.
and
They
Clank.
did
That's
just do
what
the
I
movie.
want.
Maybe that's what they need to do, right? Is kind of use that kind of
Well,
Exactly.
They're already exactly Hargeet. They already got the movie license. They got that going. So you got that great narrative right there. They have the ability to tell a great Sonic story.
To Mr. Everbone Saga's point, Microsoft, even now, while they have many mascots, they don't have that kind of mascot.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
unless
we got Crash
what's his
Bandicoot.
name?
I don't know
I was
if
about
he's
to say
that close,
unless Crash Bandicoot now starts picking up his what do you call it? His microphone
Bullhorn.
again and bullhorn and walking into outside offices, I think there's still room for a new mascot, right? So maybe Sonic, who knows?
Sonic is a mascot in Hollywood right now. The not right now, but the movies did incredibly well.
They did,
and they
great,
proved
and the third one's going to do gangbusters, dude.
right.
It's
And you know what? They've proved that they could tell a great Sonic story, right?
Yeah.
In the Hollywood realm with bad writers, but they still managed to do it.
If you guys are watching the Sonic Prime cartoon, that's
My
also
kids are watching it. Apparently, it's great.
Yeah, that's a great premise for a game. The only thing I'm gonna add is what they're doing right now is basically kind of what you said, Mag and K, which is they're gonna heavily invest in that idea, but give it a bigger the budget that it deserves to what I believe will end up being the thing you're talking about, right? So the idea that I think they did a successful transition to open world. Now we can say that the world was too sparse, but that can be fixed, right? It doesn't mean you change the entire formula again. And I don't want them to change that. I think this is a new formula that you can build on. I actually love that game, but I am me, so take that with a grain of salt. Realistically, I don't want them to change that.
What's the one pick for you you want to see come back in a big way for Sega? I mean, obviously Sonic, but he's back.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So Sonic is table stakes. We don't have to say that. Sonic is back, and they did what I want. They gave me the 2D and Sonic Frontiers. Let's forget about Sonic. I mentioned this earlier, but I don't know if a lot of people were listening to me. I want Streets of Rage to come back and I want it to be made by the Sifu guys.
Oh,
and
wow.
I want them to
dope.
find a way to have it work with multiplayer. I don't know how you do that, but that's the thing. And you give me that kind of revenge story.
You are right.
Right.
You are right there. It is the absolute evolution of the beat 'em up. Absolutely. Sifu has that crown for sure.
So if and Sifu still didn't have like cutting edge graphics. Imagine something that had the photorealistic graphics with the Sifu gameplay and Axel and all the other
that would be amazing,
Streets of Rage characters.
Yeah,
That's the one that I would love to see that, and have that come out right after the movie brings the IP back into the consciousness again from John Wick producers.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's listen. All I know is that something is going to happen. I can't specifically say when it's going to happen. I'm in the same camp as Hargeet. I think that it's first quarter of next year. I think the way that everyone broke it down about investing into the company rather than actually acquiring it. But then again, Hargeet puts a great point. Why not just acquire them because they have an opportunity? But look, folks, this has been an amazing 2 hours of talking about Tencent, talking about Microsoft, talking about Sega, talking about Crystal Dynamics. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's not a lot going on in regards to games yet, so we're still talking acquisition stuff. But again, the whole Sega thing from Microsoft Edge was funny. I mean, there's a hedgehog running around the offices. I just think it's freaking hilarious. But we're gonna pack this in. It's again, thank you so much for. We had over 600 people here for Primetime Gaming. Again, this is the summertime, so you don't know what you're going to get. A lot of people are on vacation. A lot of people listen to this on the back end. We had a ton of super chats. I cannot thank you enough for the incredible generosity. We have a lot of new channel members that are going to come the way of Hitman, who dropped a ridiculous amount of subs. And if you do get one of them, throw Hitman a thank you, and maybe you consider sticking around, because we do use those for the big giveaways, and we have 4 of them. 4 of them that are going to equate about $3,500 in the next couple of months. And all you got to do to win is be in the chat, and that's it. But listen, let's get to the outros. And Mag, you're here for an outro, brother.
Yes.
Talk about it. Where can people find you on Mondays? And more importantly, see your crazy antics on X, not Twitter.
Yeah, no kidding, right? On X. Listen, I was on a tear there. I did like 3 or 4 videos in a row. Actually, almost 5 videos. And now the news is we got to the dog days of summer, right? So things got real quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what? I'll probably pick up again after Labor Day, because I'm also going to be away for most of August. So I got a lot of things going on. But anyways, Monday nights. In the meantime, you can find me 8 p.m. Eastern Standard on XNC Podcast with Colt Eastwood. The 2 of us are on there. Last week, this week, we was just the 2 of us. The week before, we had Randall Thor there. And of course, you can find me here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern for prime time. And then actually next week, I'm going to be on Crossfire with Mooch. So I was supposed to do it tomorrow, but my kids got soccer games, so I can't do it. But next week, myself and Mooch, it's going to be hard to tell us apart. Got a lot of screaming going on, a lot of things going on. But anyways, it was a great show tonight, guys. Chat, you guys were absolutely hilarious tonight. So many jokes. I tried not to crack up like while I was talking half the time reading the comments. They were really good tonight. A lot of great vibes, and it was not a lot of energy in here tonight in this show, man. This was a great show. I had a great time, and it was like 5 guys sitting around having a drink together. It was so much fun. So, yeah, that's the way it should be, man, and I really enjoyed it. So, anyways, everybody have a great night. We'll talk to you guys in the DMs, and everybody have a great week. We'll talk to you then. Later, guys.
Thank you, brother. Have a good week, man. We'll talk soon. Hargeet, a lot of people really digging the Sega thing in the background, which I think is dope, because it's been catching my eye the whole freaking show. I absolutely love it. Sell the brand of Game On Daily. Obviously, Septic Sauce. You have the regular sauce. You have Gaz, doing what Gaz does. Asa, you guys do an amazing job. Obviously, you kind of put your own show with Zalker on hiatus for a bit because of working stuff. But you're here every Wednesday, and of course, every now and again, you drop onto Game On Daily to talk that talk, sell the brand, brother. And obviously, you're not on social media, but if somebody wanted to reach you, like give you a message or something, how could they do that?
Yeah, so I am on Discord. You can check me out there. It's H-Chani. There's no numbers or anything anymore, so it's just H-Chani. And then I'm on gamertag H-Chani as well. And tomorrow, Gaz and I will be joining Jez on the one chip challenge. Hopefully it shows up there. Let's see. Yeah, the one chip challenge. So we'll see how that goes. It's,
I'm nervous for you guys.
I'm Indian, right?
I'm nervous for you guys.
So that's what I thought. Hargeet's the inside man. Like he's Indian. I eat Indian food. He'll be all right, ladies and gentlemen. He'll be all right. There's some foods out there that'll kill that hot chip challenge, meaningless. That's why I'm like, these people are scared. Hargeet's laughing all the way. There's no problem.
Yeah.
I love it.
You know.
So we'll be doing that about 4 p.m. U.S. Eastern time.
Excellent.
So catch, but I think that's Patreon only. It's
Mhm,
Xbox
mhm.
plus 2
Yeah,
or Xbox 2 plus 1.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's that show. So either way, we'll be doing that. Gaz is still working on the sauce video. Hopefully that'll get done soon enough. So you should see that come out soon
He's been
enough.
putting little drips and drabs of what he's doing, which is
Yeah,
it looks
it'll be
like
fun.
it's going to be one of his best ones yet.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And then RDX. We did skip a couple of weeks. Dealer's back now, so we had our show yesterday. So again, hopefully again we'll have it next Tuesday, 8 o'clock U.S. Eastern time, and then of course Primetime Gaming, 7 o'clock U.S. Eastern every Wednesday. Catch you next week, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. And Kay Asante, you got something coming up this Saturday that is a pretty big deal. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I know that at some point I'm going to be a part of it, at least for a few minutes, to give you your flowers. Talk about what's happening this Saturday. Let the people know where they can come and celebrate a big milestone.
Yeah, man. We've had 100 episodes of the Gaming Circle podcast, myself and Mr. Everborn Saga, and this Saturday, well, 100 official. I'm pretty sure we've already broken 100 like on air shows just in general, like me and him. But the show officially numbered, our 100th episode is this Saturday, and of course,
Nice.
as you do with these 100 episode milestones, we're gonna call the crew in. We're gonna have all the people come on. We're gonna have all the greats come on and join us and be slanderous and ridiculous on a Saturday morning. So please join us. We'll be on Saturday morning. You know, trying to get as many of our old friends and of course, if you've watched our show, you know there's some repeat offenders that will be there. You know,
I can
we're
imagine
looking
Pixel
forward to
Bit
them.
is going to be there.
We're looking
I'm gonna
forward
be
to them.
there.
Yes,
It's
yes,
gonna be a
absolutely,
lot of people.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get an appearance from Sega's backslaps slow mo. We'll see
Slow-mo
if we can get him
gonna
on
be
there.
for sure. Of
No.
course.
On our show, he has one where he has the arm of Sonic slaps him in the face. So you see a picture of him getting slapped by Sonic. I will request we get that one for that show. It will be amazing.
Good.
No, but come check us out Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be a whole bunch of fun. You know, we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and we appreciate so many people come and check us out. All the support, our numbers are growing exponentially. So thank you guys so much. Also, I will be having a show on Monday nights with Mr. John Wolf. We're trying to kindle some fires, doing some interesting stuff. He's all about the gadgets and the Windows PCMR stuff. So we were actually talking about this little device. I don't know if you saw it. I put it on Twitter. It literally turns your Xbox into a Pro controller.
Yes,
it is insane, bro. I am like, it's given me a whole new lease on Tears of the Kingdom. Now my A button's where it's supposed to be, my B button's where it's supposed to be. None of this switching stuff. It's fantastic. So we're gonna be talking about all that stuff as well. What's up?
Did that go on the top or go on the bottom?
No, it literally replaces your battery. It's like a chip that's within the and think of it like a $30. You're buying like a battery pack for your not battery pack, but like a rechargeable pack for your Xbox. And the only added benefit here is it turns it into a Pro controller for Switch.
That's dope.
Yeah, it's just really weird. I didn't know this world existed, so I'm like totally like enamored with it. I'm playing a bunch of games. I am using my Series X controller on the Abacus, having a great time. It's amazing, right? Nice. So we can talk about more all that kind of weird, cool, interesting stuff in those spaces. But we do that Monday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Myself and John Wolf, and that is called the Gamers Playground. But yes, it has been a great time. As the mag said, it's great just sitting here chopping it up with you guys, talking games and imagining all the great stuff that's about to come. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you, brother. And shout out to Hitman, who dropped another 20 memberships. That's
wow,
dude.
Excellent.
I don't even know what to say. I see
excellent,
everyone is getting that. That's very kind of you. Generosity is just bonkers, brother. Thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it here. And hopefully the subs that you did gift, people are gonna kind of hang around and continue supporting the channel, because like I said, we don't take the money and run, folks. We give the money back to you guys and gals, as we've been doing for years. Last year, we gave away $3,500 worth of gift cards and prizes. This year, we're matching it. We have a big $500 giveaway in September, a $500 giveaway in November. We have $1,000+ giveaway for the holiday show, and one of the big ones for us. And we're doing this because we want to give back to the team that's going to be bringing us, a game that is just Stalker. Is a game that we all want to be released, and the team obviously has had a lot of difficulty being from Ukraine, and it's our way of giving back to this small studio, and because we're a mom and pop kind of organization here, is we're going to purchase 15 copies of Stalker 2 at full price and give them away live on the air. One show, 15 copies, your choice, PC or Xbox. And again, we're not giving you Game Pass subs. We're actually buying the copy so the team gets their 70%. And again, it's just our small way of doing that. And obviously, thank you so much for all of the support, because we can't do any of that at all without you, without the fine folks. Everborn Saga, by all means, brother, sell your brand. Talk about the Everborn Saga. Where can people, buy what you currently have out there, and what else you got going on?
All right. Well, the answer to all those questions is Everborn Saga, but most importantly, everbornsaga.com. I implore you to go to that website right now, look at it, and tell me if we don't have the best quality.
The books, the artwork is just, it's God tier, folks. It really is.
I would put our stuff in terms of quality up against the majors, right? And don't take my word for it. Go to everbornsaga.com.
Yep.
See it. We've released 6 chapters so far. We've got over 300 pages. You can get all that together in a bundle for $50. But very soon we're getting ready to announce our 7th chapter, which is Ariel's Adventure Part 2, because there's a bunch of different series that intertwine with each other, telling the same story. But you can see that if you go to everbornsaga.com. Help me out. That's why I do all this before. That's why I wanted to connect with the community in the first place, to bring awareness to this universe we're putting together. So, and I love talking about video games and making them. So go to
talking about Sega, folks. He loves talking about Sega.
This is true. This is true. This is my ultimate goal. This is why I started my company, so I can get the Sega buyout. We get the Everborn, the Sonic Ariel crossover. But listen, everbornsaga.com. Check it out and tell me I'm wrong in terms of the quality. So we'll see an Ariel's Adventure Chapter 2 coming very, very soon.
Well, looking forward to that. And of course, a big thank you to the panel. We don't have a show without a panel. We certainly don't have a show without a chat. Thank you to everyone that took the time to be here for 2 hours. Of course, I'm going to close out the show, folks, with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, Craig, I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. BoomStick and Friends.